Exactly 1 year ago, I walked away from my 9 to 5. No backup plan, just belief, a mission, and a vision. And now we are here. 1 year later, just before the 4th of July, talking about what really matters, opportunity.
Opportunity isn't always loud. Sometimes it's just a VA claim form that you didn't fill out, or a home you could have bought but didn't, or a business idea that you keep putting off day by day by day.
This episode is about calling that out. If you're a veteran, the system owes you the tools to be successful, but it's up to you in order to utilize them.
We're talking VA benefits, real estate, and entrepreneurship, not in just theory, but in practical strategy to help you and your family.
Because opportunity is not something that's waiting for you. It's something that you compete for. Prepare to Compete podcast. Let's get into it. Hello and welcome to the Prepare to Compete podcast, where we talk all things VA benefits, real estate, entrepreneurship, and more. And I'm your host, Kayvon Jones, civilian patriot, business strategist, and advocate for veterans everywhere.
And I'm Kenneth Davis, CEO of Veterans for Veterans, Navy veteran, and also veteran advocate and servant.
Kenneth Davis, how you feeling today, my brother?
Oh, feeling great. Really excited for this Independence Day that's going to be upcoming. Hope everyone gets the time to enjoy with the families and being able to really take the time out to celebrate our United States independence here.
Absolutely. Congratulations. We love to celebrate independence. And if you see the hat, I'm celebrating my independence today as well. And we're celebrating take advantage of opportunities, right? So, we're here, on the brink of 4th of July, looking back on, all trials and tribulations and, going on with journeys. And we're going to discuss that today in regards to VA benefits, the real estate, and also our entrepreneurship journey. So definitely stay tuned for all of that. So, Kenneth, as we kind of get into it, and we want to have the first segment here talking about the most important topic of VA benefits. A lot of times veterans waste time when it comes to applying for their VA benefits. You may have got out of service in 2010. Here we are, 2025, and you've missed out on 15 years of benefits. So we really want to stress the importance and give you some practical steps on how to take advantage of the opportunity of maximizing your VA benefits.
Yeah, true indeed. Take the leap, take the step, take the first initial step in this process, because if you don't, who's going to do it, right? Veterans, a lot of times we procrastinate and say we're going to get to it. You may feel ill-deserving. You may feel as though that you're taking from another veteran. You may feel as though that you don't warrant it. Well, let me tell you, you do. You do. You did the service, and now it's time to reap your exclusive benefits. And we're going to talk about it here today. So I'm excited about it.
No, absolutely. So when we kind of unpack that, and we're going to be unpacking that today. So Kenneth, I want you to tell them, what is the importance of submitting your claim either when you're still in service and soon to discharge or shortly thereafter?
Well, the importance is this, on average, right? A veteran typically doesn't even think about their VA claim until the 5th to 7th year once they're discharged, right? That's when life starts to settle in, gets a little bit more in tune and difficult, right? And then that's when we start talking about the VA benefits. Well, I'll tell you this, the sooner the better, you guys, because imagine getting paid from the day after you discharge versus 30 years down the line, 20 years down the line. Obviously, there were some barriers before, but for today's veterans, there aren't too many barriers that's in your way. So don't stifle your growth or your benefits that you could be garnering right now.
No, absolutely, because that's very important. And so now when we kind of put some practical things behind it, I think you mentioned it there. So if you, let's say, are dealing with injuries from your service time and you wait 15 years to apply for it, can you actually recoup the 15 years of missed benefits?
Well, unfortunately, no, right? That's the answer. No, we can't. But I can tell you this is that you may not be able to recoup the benefits, and it just may be a little bit more difficult due to the elongation time out of your service, right? The elongated time out of service. Well, I'm going to tell you this as well. However, the sooner you get a determination, the better pathway that you can be able to take. You have no strategy. You don't know what you don't know. But now that you know, it's time to get to your benefits as quick as possible because again, you're missing out on that opportunity. All right. But to answer the question, there is no recoupment in payment. Okay. You have your year's time frame from your intent to file submitted from a year from that date. Okay. Once your intent to file is submitted and accepted, which again, verification is always needed. And where do you verify? You verify on, again, your VA.gov account, or you can verify with your regional office. Your local regional office could be able to provide that verification as well. But again, on average, there's a year's time frame. There are other circumstantial matters that do play a part, but we have an effective date video for you, and that's not here. So
Absolutely. And, if you are still in service or you recently discharged, you want to understand that your discharge date is your intent to file date for that first year of filing your claim.
yes, sir. Yes, sir. Most definitely. That first year transitioning, you have a year's time frame of your discharge date. Your discharge date is your automatic intent to file, automatic. But let me tell you something, don't rely on it, right? We understand the VA regulatory changes happen all the time, week by week. But let me tell you, if you submit your intent to file, that can historically grandfather you in at that historic regulation at that time. So do not just trust it, trust but verify at all times.
Absolutely. So you're saying they're getting out of service, they set up their VA.gov account or they submit the paper 5260Z form. You want to make sure that they do that regardless of their discharge date to make sure that they lock in that regulation. Now, obviously, you submit an intent to file online. It's probably going to say a different date than your discharge date, but they will go with that earlier date if that's still the current regulation.
If it is the current regulation, and also hopefully you have an adjudicator that is identifying correct effective dates. But yes, that's majority of the time, yes.
Absolutely. That's why it's important, to have adjudicators and to get help. So we do have the info on the screen here, Vets for Vets info/help, where we can definitely assist you with your VA claim process and be able to educate and keep you abreast of everything going on with those regulation changes within our community there as well. So, that's some great information. And we also want to give them some examples, right, Ken, of what type of benefits can be lost by waiting. Obviously, you have the monthly compensation, you have the health care, you have education benefits, and you have a lot of auxiliary benefits there that's available for you. But, we really want to get into the practical sense of what that means. As a transitional veteran, you're dealing with a lot of things. You may be dealing with unemployment. You may be dealing with different obstacles of underemployment. And so that income, that health care, that can literally be life changing. That's the difference between you getting a colonoscopy, now versus 5 years and, figuring out you have an ailment. So when we really want to kind of tie in why it's more important other than just having those things for the financial gain of the VA benefits, but also what that means for veterans and their families.
Yes, yes. I think you hit the nail on the head, right? It affects everything, everything. And I really want veterans to hear that. You could be utilizing healthcare benefits for your child, your spouse, your mother that you may be taking care of because they're parent dependent. So understanding it actually affects everything. And taking heed to that, you want to be one of the first ones to make sure that you're getting the proper help that you deserve. So the sooner, the better. However, we aren't just submitting case files just to go ahead and submit them, right? You don't want to just, just throw everything at the wall and hope something sticks. You want to know. You want to have a very sound, comfortable, confident claim. And how do you do so? There's other steps that you would need to take to be able to get that reassurance there.
No, absolutely. And, we mentioned a couple different types of benefits here, but, if you can kind of break down some of the lesser known benefits so that our veterans can be well aware of those as well.
For sure. Well, you could be missing out on property taxes, right? You could be paying additional property taxes that you shouldn't have been paying because you waited, right? You could be missing out on education for your child, right? You could be missing out on Chapter 35 education for your child or spouse or whomever to be able to get those additional benefits. You can also be missing out on again an accepted handicap placard because you're a veteran that has mobility issues, back issues, knee issues, ankle issues, foot issues. There's so many different components. So the longer we wait, the longer that it may take to be able to access the benefits that's afforded to you. So as we take a look at this, we have just named 5 benefits right there. And we can go on and on and on because there's more to be able to, to be accepted. And again, there's a lot of unpacked, unknown benefits that's afforded to you that, again, you join a community, it's going to be there for you. And when we're talking about benefits, we're talking about federal and state benefits. So that may apply to one veteran, but it may not apply to another. However, what we can say is that you missing out on benefits is a blanket statement and it serves for all.
Absolutely. So you definitely do not want to mix out on those benefits. They're there for you. However, if you have missed out on some benefits, there's a little known thing called continuous prosecution. And I know for veterans that may come up time to time, and we want to educate our veterans on what that really means. So if you could kind of explain to us more about continuous prosecution.
Yes, of course. Well, again, when we're talking about continuous prosecution is a really, really, really big thing for veterans, right? Most veterans, again, want to file their claim and hopefully get approved. That's ideal, right? But it doesn't always happen like that. Okay, we're still dealing with the Department of Veterans Affairs. We love you, but we're still dealing with the Department of Veterans Affairs. Okay, and with that, we have to understand that that you may be denied, and taking a pathway of being denied and denied again and denied again, but you have continuously prosecuted your claim all the way through and through. Okay, you submitted a supplemental appeal. You submitted a higher level review. You've even you're at the point of submitting an appeal from the Board of Veterans of Appeals, okay, BVA. Well, if you have taken the proper steps to be able to submit your claim from the before your date on your notification letter within 1 year of that, and you continuously to prosecute your claim, you have the ability to have an earlier effective date all the way back to the original date of starting, okay, for your intent to file. So if it takes 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 7 years, you still have the opportunity to have what should have been granted to you initially. So as long as you continuously prosecute your claim, make sure that you focus on getting it approved and overturning what is denied.
You definitely want to make sure that you are applying for your benefits and you're not accepting no as the first answer. A lot of times you may not have the correct documentation, and you may just be told no for reasons outside of your control. VA may just have given you a bad decision. So you want to make sure that you stay on top of things, you have 1 year to refile that claim. And now we know this is a lot of information for you to remember, right? So we did position this into an ebook called Maximizing VA Benefits. Okay, so it is available to you. You can see the information here on the screen, or if you're listening, it's going to be in the description as well. Definitely, vetforvetsinfo.com has all the information and resources regarding different ebooks that we offer, a different veteran community that we offer, and also a full comprehensive guide talking about all of our benefits that we have afforded to you here, right? So you definitely want to take advantage of that knowledge, and you definitely want to utilize your resources there.
And also, with all of that you're gaining, and also understand there's a space for support there as well. All right. Veterans, again, we must support one another. And that's, again, a community where you can be supported and be heard, and not only be heard, but also provide an information that can support you and your family for a lifetime.
Absolutely, because securing your claim is only the beginning. Let's talk about what opportunity you can unlock for your future, like owning a piece of it. Let's get into the real estate segment. Stay tuned. From renter to homeowner. A lot of individuals, including active duty service members and veterans, miss out on home ownership sometimes because they do not understand the value of opportunity costs. And when I'm talking about opportunity costs, I'm talking about delaying home buying. So, Kenneth, what we want to talk to him in this segment about is why purchasing a home as soon as possible can be very, very important for anyone and everyone there.
Yeah. Listen, veterans, when you talk about the VA home loan that's offered to you, we spoke about unpacking some of the benefits before in the last segment, right? Why wait, right? The opportunity is now. This is a time when you're talking about your VA home loan that you want to unlock. There's a ton of opportunity, and there's a ton of benefits in home buying and home purchase. You purchase the right home, and it could change your entire life if, again, you actually treat that home right. There's so many different reasons on why purchasing is a good idea, but there's also, again, components on the contrary where people would think that it's not. And we're here to talk about that here today.
Definitely here to talk about it and here to educate you regarding the VA loan benefits that you have. So now when we get into that, VA loan is a phenomenal resource, Kenneth, right? So you're able to purchase a home, no money down, no mortgage insurance, all of these different things, below market interest rates. You can literally go, when you're done with this video, you got to watch the whole video and research everything there is to know regarding the VA loan. And I urge you to do so, because once you understand everything there is to know regarding the VA loan, you can see those barriers for the opportunity of home ownership is not really as present as you think, because not only can you buy a home with the VA loan, sellers can sell their home with their VA loan, and they could sell that loan to you, meaning, hey, you worried about the interest rates? Well, you don't have to get a new market interest rate. You could assume that seller's VA loan interest rate. So there are so many different phenomenal tools. And then let's say you can't do that because there's, certain different red tape regarding that based on time of purchase and things of that nature. Okay, well, buy a house with the higher interest rate and then go ahead and refinance that home. The VA loan has a streamlined refinance program. So literally almost any excuse in the book that you can give me that if you could afford a home, you can purchase that home. There's no reason not to.
Yeah, and listen, when we're talking about the military, a lot of times we talk about the veterans because the VA home loan is offered to veterans, but also unlocking and understanding that the loan is offered to active duty members as well, right? Again, knowing what I know now, again, being a young sailor, I would have took I would have took the immediate opportunity to purchase while serving, right? Purchasing while serving. Many people purchase while serving because they have families and they want to be able to house their families. But at the end of the day, when we're talking about the military, they also provide you something called BAH, okay? Basic allowance for housing. In my terms, buy a house, okay? So with that, you have the government actually paying for your expenses for your home while you're in service, and the VA and home loan is offered to you. So why not? Why not? Where's opportunity?
Man, the opportunity is right in front of you, right?
Sounds like now.
It sounds like now. And when we kind of look at the examples there and we look at appreciation, right now, imagine, what year did you get into service?
In 2000.
Oh my gosh, 2005, 20 years ago, which is a whole nother topic that we'll get into here, right? Right. But so when we're thinking about that, imagine what the real estate market was like in 2005. And we say, well, yeah, the real estate market was booming and this and that and that. And so again, sometimes you think because you're buying in a high market, well, it was high in 2005. I guarantee you in most markets right now, where we are in 2025, it's a lot higher than it would have been in 05 there. So over that 20-year time period, he would have accumulated a lot of equity, even if he bought the most expensive house that he could have purchased at that time. It's like literally real estate is one of those things. It's very difficult over a long period of time to make a bad decision.
Yeah, most definitely. And I want to make sure that we unpack that. Could you explain exactly what equity is? Because there's a lot of young military personnel and also older that may not understand the meaning of equity, understand how appreciation works with it, and just the economic factors.
Great question. So equity, when we're talking about equity is your money in your home, right? It's money in the bricks, okay? So now when you think about the purchase price of your home. So let's say you purchase your home for $200,000 in 2005. Well, 20 years later, that home is worth $500,000. So equity is going to be the difference between what your home is worth now and what you owe on it. Because also it's going to be more than 300,000 because you paid down the loan over that 20-year period. So you may have $350,000 or more in equity based on that scenario there.
Fantastic, fantastic. So, and unpacking that, what is the realism of that? Well, that equity you can be able to cash out, right? The VA cash out refinance program, they'll give you up to 100% of your loan amount, 100% the loan to value. What does that mean? Whatever your house is worth when you bought it versus the difference of what it's worth now, you're able to take the cash out of 100% of your loan. Okay. So again, of the value of that home. So that's a lot of opportunity there.
Absolutely. A lot of opportunity. And I'll even put a different approach behind it, right? So between 2005 and 2025, how many individuals lost their jobs, had an injury, had a major expense that they couldn't cover? Well, that equity in your home, you could utilize that by taking a home equity line of credit, or you can do a home equity loan to be able to pay for those expenses. Talk about losing your job and being worried about how you're going to pay your bills and getting your home foreclosed and all of these different factors. Well, if you know that's coming and you can be able to take a home equity loan for $50,000, $100,000, $150,000 to be able to see you through those hard times, how invaluable is that?
It's called stability. Use opportunity to be stable for you and your family. And stability is something that I don't think a lot of veterans are used to, right? Being deployed, going on deployments and back to back to back, or, transferring to this duty station to that duty station. Well, veterans, let me tell you something. Now that you've transitioned out, now it's time to garner some stability in your home, in your life, and in your family. And this is a perfect way to do so.
Perfect way to do it, right? And even, a different example I think of, because it's like, well, I don't have that much equity. I just purchased my home, or you telling me to purchase a home now. Well, when he talks about stability there, what happens? There's so many people I know now that during COVID a few years ago, they had a decent job, here in Las Vegas, working in the casino, doing certain things, working at the dispensaries, a lot of different things. They've subsequently lost that job instability. They decided not to purchase a home, and now they're worried about having a roof over their head. Well, if they would have purchased a home at that time, not only would have locked in the highest expense that you have, which is your cost of living of your housing, they would have also had a lot more flexibility if you go on hard times. And especially as an active duty service member or veteran utilizing a VA loan, they're not going to be quick to foreclose on you, right? And now think about that landlord when you're renting a property. They're going to be quick to get you out of there. You get 1 month, 2 month, 3 months behind. It's taken maybe a year or two for someone to get foreclosed on. And then even before that, there's different refinance options. There's a lot of different programs for you to be able to protect you and stay in your home. So that's going to be one of the biggest practical differences between renting and buying. So, a lot of people, when they're thinking about it, they're just talking about today. You need to be thinking about the next 30 years and the future of yourself and your family.
Yeah, it's unprecedented of and I hate to use the word ignorance of home buying, right? And sometimes I think it's something that's possibly necessarily possibly done not purposely, but it's information that you may have not have known, and you have the access of the information. So now take advantage of it, because now you could be a working professional here, and now you have everything covered. You have a government job. You have multiple degrees in your belt, but you're a renter. Now that's the next step. Taking that next step of home ownership is going to secure all the hard work that you have done in school, at work, and with your family. So now secure yourself by owning a home. So now let's bring it back full circle. Bring it full circle and have everything there for you.
Absolutely. And then you have to understand, right, that you do not necessarily have to purchase a home and live in that one home forever if that's not your goals or that's not your life situation. You actually don't even have to buy a traditional single family home. You could buy a 1 or 2 bedroom condo, or you could buy up to a 4 unit duplex, triplex, or fourplex property with the VA loan. So there's a lot of different things. And even when you're thinking about that, if you're buying a multifamily home up to that 4 unit, where you're coming into home ownership as an investor, because you're going to be living in that 1 unit, renting out the subsequent units, and be able to create income for yourself, potentially eventually move out of that unit that you're living in, and then go ahead and buy another home and keep doing that. A lot of active duty members and some that we talk about doing that, and some have done that, where they literally purchased 1 or 2 homes for every duty station they were in.
Yeah. I mean, listen, it's exciting, right? When we're talking about we're on deployment, you're going on to these different types of countries, having a great time, and also, churning through the ranks, right? And you are one of the star players in your company, in your division, in your brigade. Listen, at that time frame, all the money that you are saving from being away, what is the best utilization? Sometimes it may not be a home, but I will tell you 9 times out of 10, you won't be wrong if you did buy a home. I can tell you that. So now taking those monies, because again, the VA home loan does not have a down payment, but there are closing costs you need to be able to pay for. And you also want a cushion, right? We can talk about, again, financial components, but we won't necessarily get into it. But you want a cushion to be able to support yourself, again, just like if hard times come along, right? So now you have everything you need to take the next step. So now it's just time to take it. All right. You just got back from deployment. It won't hurt you or your family to be able to take the next step to get home, because you are active duty. Your job security is pretty good for you. So take the time, take the step, take the opportunity.
Absolutely. So mainly anybody that we talk to regarding home ownership, they always say, I wish I would have did it sooner, right? Yeah, I wish I would have did it sooner. And, I've made a whole video about it that that'll be posted by the time you see this, right? Where we, discuss that, because we do understand that it is difficult right now with the uncertainty. We're not trying to negate all your objections and things that way, but most things worth having is worth fighting for, and it's worth educating yourself and figuring out a way towards execution. And home ownership is going to be that for you, okay? Because it can be a very, very important investment tool and retirement tool for you as an individual and for your family, for those that have families. So it is very, very important to consider it. And so that's why we stress it. And in that video I'm referring to, we'll go ahead and put the link on the screen now. You will be able to understand the different nuances of purchasing a home based upon your situation, right? Because it's going to be different based on a single individual right now, based on whether you have a family, based on this and that. So in that video, I'm talking about the different stages of life and what you should be considering based upon that. But wherever you at, there is a way to make home ownership possible.
True indeed. And not only that, you guys can also again be able to pick up our ebooks to be able to kind of understand the VA home loan process and home ownership practical steps, right? Because when we're talking about home ownership, there is a process and you must understand it, right? And why I say you must understand it, you must understand it so you have the best circumstantial process to get you in a home. Because let's be serious here, right? Every home isn't a great buy, but if you are in a home, it is great for you. Okay. And that's a big difference. It's a very big difference, right? Again, you spoke about touched on the economic cycle, right? What goes up must come down, but what's down must come up in regards to the economy. All right. It's an economic cycle that is going to pass. 2008 was one of the worst crises ever, right? But it at some point in time, it passed. It's going to pass. And from a lot of VA buyers currently at the moment, what's being spoken for most is, hey, the interest rates are too high. How many times are we going to hear that? How many years are we going to hear that, right? In all actuality, in a historical view, when you talk about mortgage interest rates, the interest rates are currently where they are normally set on average. Okay. When veterans were purchasing homes for 2%, 3%, even 4%, that is below market interest on a historical value listing. Okay. So when we talk about that, be very conscientious of your circumstance, because again, your circumstance may not be the next veteran's circumstance, because I'm sure your buddy has said, hey, don't take that interest rate. I got mine for 2.5. I know somebody. And you show me that loan officer who's able to get that 2.5 right.
No, absolutely. Because, when we're talking about purchasing a home, and then when we're talking about it as an investment vehicle of purchasing, a smaller property or a condo, and then, restructuring and going to purchase your forever home a little later, we're talking about doing that. And we're talking about securing the future of your family and your kids, right? Because when we think about it over the long term, you have young children or you have children at whatever age, Well, when they go out to purchase a home is going to be a lot more expensive. Well, what if you've already purchased two, three, four, five homes and they could just move into one of your properties? How powerful is that? How powerful is it for a family member that you want to care for and you have a rental property instead of them needing to go out and beg for someone else to rent a property to them? What if you could secure them in one of your properties? There's so many different options and activations on why this is important. You're literally creating that generational wealth. So when we're talking about the kids there, hey, they're living in that condo while they're in college or whatever, and then they could stay in that as long as you want them to, and you could really plan and build out. And I know Kenneth, we have those different type of options, and we just wanted to kind of see how you feel regarding that and just the importance of being able to pass those homes down to your children.
Yeah, I listen, you guys. For every child, you should have a home. Let that soak in a bit. For every child you have, you should have a home. We understand life insurance is great. We understand 401ks are great. We understand that any other investment tool is great because you're investing. But let me tell you, investment in a home for your child is going to be one of the best tools that you will ever need or desire in you and your family's life. And we can go down the laundry list of why, but I'm only going to tell you one. The child is outside of your home, okay? And they're safe and secure. And you know where they are. You have access at any time, okay? So that is a big, big component that we want to focus on, you guys, because investment tools are investment tools. The market is going to fluctuate on a continuous basis, but I'll tell you one thing that's always going to go up is babies being had in the global world, okay? And also real estate prices. There's not enough land for the amount of people that we have. It's just, again, supply and demand. Very simple.
Very simple there. Very, very simple. So thank you for that, Kenneth. And, something that we kind of encounter and kind of hear about, within our community, especially, right, is that, hey, you're 18, it's time to get out the house, right? That is, an anecdote that we definitely hear, quite often. But I even want to encourage and even at least had a conversation here that if you were unable to have your children, purchase a home or be able to purchase a home for them, and you own the home that you live in now, you should keep them within that home until they're able to afford to buy a home of their own. Why are we kicking our children out? Why are we kicking our children out before they can reach home ownership? Let them stay in to 25 years old or 30 years old when they're able to purchase a home. Especially our daughters. I mean, we got a daughter here, so she definitely gonna need to stay home and until that. But we're creating different things for them as far as owning other properties. But you're either gonna live here, live in one of these properties. You're not about to go out paying rent in the open market. That's just not what we're doing. So you should look into that personal anecdote there and really adopt some of those principles for yourself. And you could think about it twofold because there are families right now that don't own a home, cannot afford a home, but they have adult children that's somewhere paying rent and they paying rent too. It's like, well, how does this make sense, right? You want to still be able to care for your children. They still want to be able to care for you. You're in the same city. Why are we paying rent in two different places where we could use cooperative economics, live together, and be able to purchase a home together and then help the child purchase their own home and move that way? The reason why we consider home ownership to be too expensive is because we're going at it as individuals. We're not going at it collectively. And if you think about a collective approach of having your family members, whether it be children or retired parents, and pooling that income together, If that's what you need to do, then you need to do that to achieve that home ownership of that first property. And then the next person can purchase a home once they can afford to on their own. And you continue to build from that strategy.
Mm, that's powerful there. It's powerful. And one thing I kind of took out of that is having to understand the financial literacy. Financial literacy is a component that I think most people do not understand or do not want to understand. Those understandings would create the plan that you made, right? But also beyond financial literacy, uh, kicking a child out at the age of 18 who has minimal education, minimal job experience, and also just minimal experience in life. Well, it also lacks love, and I'm not again pointing or judging at any parent, but that's just in a thought process that you want to focus on as well, because I don't think love would put a child in that circumstance, right? Uh, as parents, you want to help your child grow, develop, and also be a productive member of society and be the best that they can be. But they can't do that under turmoil and distress. And we can't get to the point of home ownership if we don't have the financial literacy part and also the component of the support through love. So it's just I think that's where everyone could also use a little bit of patience and understanding with that. But that's just my 2 cents of it, because again, at the end of the day, you're either going to buy or not. Okay. You're either going to take the opportunity to get a home and stop waiting, and waiting and waiting and waiting until the market is right, where it can pass you and the prices are going to be sky high. Okay. One thing that we know that isn't going to fall, that what we would suspect isn't going to fall, just based upon historical values, that is the housing market. So the time is now. Take the time to be able to get into a home and take the steps to be able to get into a home and secure your child and not kick them out at age of 18. Because, but I'm not, again, like I said before, that's no slight to anyone, but you want to make sure that your child is secure. And the way you can do so is purchasing a home for them so they have somewhere to go, because they need some freedom. They need some independence, and that's how they'll be able to do so.
Well, my daughter get her freedom and independence when she's married off at 45. No, but Kenneth gave his personal anecdotes and things there. He said it was only 2 cents, man. I think it was worth millions, right? So when you're on the ground that you stand on, you're building a foundation. When you build a foundation, you can build a business. So stay tuned for our next segment. We're talking all things entrepreneurship. Stay tuned. All right, Kenneth, it's been a long, long time since we broached this subject of veteran entrepreneurship, and really kind of touched these subjects. And, I've been reposting some of the reels and highlights because we've been getting a lot of good traction and conversation from those. So thank everyone for watching those and commenting and giving their different perspectives on that. So, when to leave your 9 to 5, right? It is so, so very important. I was talking mess about a year and a half, 2 years ago, when I was in that process of figuring out how to leave and when to leave my 9 to 5. And you literally, through the podcast, you guys are seeing us learning and growing, right? In all aspects and growing through our lives and different things. So I got my hat on. Wife got me this last year. I decided to leave at 9 to 5. And it was a little bit of a difficult decision, but not really, right? Because ultimately, one of the things that drove me, one of the things I said, and, I've heard it in a song, the wise man once said, taking your daughter to school, that's real goals, right? So I wanted to be able to, hey, when my daughter started school, I wanted to be able to take her. I wanted to be able to own my day, control my day, and also not limit myself into my earning potential. And there was a lot of different things I saw. I had a very decent career, economic wise. And, some people would just be happy with achieving that. But I know my full potential. And I knew I was not being the most successful and the best person I could be by staying with that employer. And they threw it in my face even more because they were hire consultants and contractors. And I'm like, and military individuals could attest to this, right? They making way more money than me, and I'm 5 times as talented and different things of that. So just knowing and understanding those different frustrations, and it's like, hey, let me take the leap to go ahead and establish a business and go on that journey because, like I said before, I'm either going to get rich or die trying. So that's what we on right now, man. That's what we talking about within this, and talking a little bit about my journey and really just kind of reflecting on those things in this segment here.
Great. I think, hey, first and foremost, um, I want to honor you for your courageous leap there, because I'll tell you right now, it's not easy, right? It's not easy. It takes a lot of different strength and also courage to be able to take that first step. So congratulations on the first year, being able to go ahead and make sure again that leap has been taken. So because at the end of the day, when security is taken up under you, sometimes so many different emotions comes about, right? But you've been walking through this with again very solid, strong, and with a great foundation up on you. So definitely tip my hats off to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely. I mean, on the surface, right? Because, a lot of stuff happened, behind the scenes, right? And, I kind of talked to you about kind of when I knew it was time to leave, and I kind of go to that story regarding seeing, less talented people, receive opportunities, and, just also knowing where I wanted to be and needed to be in life. And frankly, just looking at it and looking at the way the economy is going to outpace my income if I stay here, right? So if I could even continue to get raises, because 2025 would have been a real good year for me, if I would have stayed there, right? And still being a part-time entrepreneur and, still doing real estate and putting all three of those incomes together, it's going to be a pretty good year. I passed up on a pretty good year to have a possibility of a really phenomenal lifetime and future. And that's the reason why you make those leaps and you take those chances.
No, most definitely. You take the chances with the eye on the goal and keeping it positive and straight to the goal. But like you said, during the times of getting to the goal, it's very difficult. It's a very difficult path. When we talk about entrepreneurship versus working a job, to be very honest with you, entrepreneurship isn't what it's cracked up to be. What everyone thinks it is. There are long days, there are long nights, there are also different roadblocks that you run into, but at the end of the day, it shows you who you are. It's gonna unpack and really show you who you are, and you're gonna have to actually look in the mirror and have to deal with that. Whether if it's a positive or whether if it's a negative, because you go through every emotion. You go through every emotion. Sometimes you may not feel good enough. Sometimes you may not feel that are worthy enough to even be in the position that you are to be able to take the journey of entrepreneurship. But at the end of the day, when I tell you this, it's an opportunity that you could be losing out on. So which one would you rather sit with? Is regret or having that year of 2025? I think it's a lot more, it's the regret, living with regret is a lot more valuable. Not living with regret is a lot more valuable than having that year of 2025. Right?
No, absolutely. Absolutely. And, as we talked about in the last few segments, right, we're talking about opportunity and the concept of that and the importance of for veterans applying for your benefits, purchasing a home and being able to utilize those different equity tools and VA benefits and things to be able to secure your future, and have more income and have more security for yourself and different factors of that matter, right? So, because you think about it as a veteran, hey, you got your benefits, then at least you're not necessarily starting off from ground zero in terms of leaving your job. And I wouldn't even recommend you to leave your job if you're starting off from ground zero. So actually, let me roll that back there, right? So if you're not making, and we said this on the previous video, if you're not making at least 3 times your salary in your business, it's not time to leave yet.
But
So
consistently, let's make sure and we're not talking about, oh, we did a good 3 months. No, probably 3 years. Let's
absolutely.
let's make it secure.
Yeah, make sure that is secure. And, with that advice, Kenneth, I know you founded Veterans for Veterans, quite some time ago. And, you've been utilizing, and, I believe last couple of years, you left your full-time employment with the VA to embark on this journey here. And, how has those last few years been for you in terms of making that decision and where you are now and being able to reflect back on that?
That's a great question, right? When we talk about entrepreneurship, it's not a very inbox question. There's so many different components of it. But reflection, going back to things, it's a very bumpy road, right? And what I mean by bumpy, I don't mean in the sense of in the person myself. It's just a bumpy road, regardless in any type of entrepreneur endeavor. It takes a lot. It takes a lot. There are sleepless nights. There are different birthdays you may not make. There may be friends you may lose. There may be different opportunities that you can't take. There's so many different components, but one huge thing is that understanding, that you need to steer the ship. Everyone, whether if it's employees, partnerships, or anything, everyone is not going to treat your entrepreneurial journey or your business the way you would. And you want to surround yourself with people who are living in excellence on a continuous basis. And why I say that is because if they're living in excellence with what they have, no matter what, they are going to remain at a level of standard that you want to maintain on a continuous basis. And if you have someone who is living at a level of excellence, it's easier to bring that person to the next level of where your journey is going. And it's not an easy journey. It's not an easy journey, but it's just, you want to surround yourself with great people.
Absolutely. Surrounding yourself with great people. But again, you have to take that first step, right? And the first step is maximizing opportunity. And so since we're in the entrepreneurship, entrepreneurship, because that's a whole nother thing, because that's kind of how I cheated the system, right? I cheated the system as an entrepreneur. We got a whole video on that. I won't get into, that right now because we got a whole lot of things to cover. But what I do want to cover is a concept that I learned in business school. Shout out Richard Moore. You're back in the day, undergrad, right? Opportunity cost and defining and understanding that, right? So, now you can ask ChatGPT what that means in a breakdown. Back then, you didn't have that, right?
You got to crack open a book.
You had to crack open the books. Now we old enough to talk about back in the day, man. That's crazy. It's crazy how time flies, right? But opportunity cost is the cost of making one decision over another, right? So when we talk about that in the concept of going to school, post-secondary education, it's the opportunity of say, hey, do I sacrifice the next 4 to 5 years of income I could have gotten by going and doing a labor-intensive job, whether it be in the casinos here in Las Vegas or whether you're somewhere else working in construction or doing different things of that nature, or do I go or even go join in the military to do that 4 to 6 year enlistment, right? And then going to college after that. It's the opportunity cost of making one decision versus another. So obviously, if you go to college right now, right away, you're full time living on campus, may have a part time job, but your income is going to be significantly less than if you would have taken a job right out of high school, making maybe 35, 40,000 a year, which would have been considered a very good amount coming from high school, not having any kids, not having many liabilities and things that way. However, the other side of that is that you may stay at a certain point, right? Because you're only going to promote so far without having education or technical training. So, definitely you have to kind of skirt that line of doing that. And even, when joining the military, I'm sure there was a lot of thought about that for yourself, right? Where I want to go to college right now. I want to do this. Well, if you sacrifice that 4 to 6 years of being enlisted first and then went to college, hey, now I don't have to worry about student loans. I don't have to worry about this because I have all of that covered. And while I was in the military, I could even take some classes to lessen that burden when I get out, right? So weighing all of those different factors, whether it be monetary or otherwise, that's all part of evaluating your opportunity cost.
Most definitely. So let me ask you, just in the journey, right? But thinking about their 18-year-old self, when we talk about the opportunity cost, uh, do you think, even in today's economy, do you think for yourself that you should have taken a job at the time of the age of 18 and being able to work your way through the ranks and gain the experience, skills, and transferable skills that can go throughout different industries? Or do you think your education, taking the time to go to college to get your education, serves you in a better direction?
No, that's a great question. And I think that question is, and the answer is nuance, right? Because it's really going to depend on the individual. Now, myself, I wouldn't have known what job to take that would have been able to further me into a sustainable career that I would have been happy with to at that particular time. So there were literally not enough opportunities that I was aware of at that particular point without going to college to be able to take care of myself long term. So I think for myself during that time, I think college was the best thing because it also teaches you a lot of transferable skills. And when we're talking about the job market today, a lot of why some young people struggle is because they don't have the transferable skills and critical thinking skills to be able to work and do things in certain jobs and corporations. So they can't seize those opportunities.
Yeah, most definitely. I think there's a lot of correlation between the current college state and the skill level of the job market now, or the candidates of the job market. But let me ask you now. Obviously, it's nuance, right? But at the end of the day, when we talk about in a more economical fashion, and we talk about strict compensation, right? You talk about student loans in college versus working a job and on a day-to-day basis that can potentially get you a raise or potentially garner those transferable skills where you can go get another skilled job and work your way up there. Um, what is your advice to the younger generation now who is going through that same decision?
Ask ChatGPT. But no, man. Really, they really just kind of consider, what they want to do, right? And a lot of times you don't really understand what you want to do long term. So I think even then and even now, some type of post-secondary training and skill set building is mandatory, right? It's going to be mandatory whether you decide to go to the military, whether you decide to go to traditional college or university, or whether you decide to learn a trade. I would say you would want to do one of those three things. You would not want to go into a job that's hiring you without any of those things. So if a job doesn't require one of those three things, I would say stay away from that because that's ultimately going to be a dead end job in most cases.
Mm, mm. Yeah, most definitely. It definitely will be a dead end job, but just even still with those transferable skills, we want to make sure that we're talking about transferable skills that's in an industry that you're looking towards, right? Because again, we could talk about the opportunity cost, right? You can be at that dead end job. You think a transferable skill is going to be related to engineering, and you're actually in the restaurant business at an entry level position. Well, that entry level position has no skills that is going to get you into that position of engineering. So just making sure that you are taking the right steps. There's so many different ways to figure out if you're taking the right steps. Information is going to be one of the keys here today, right? In today's world, because you can get that information at a drop of a dime in today's world. But I will also say that sometimes a lot of the job market today, or just the world today, is trying to leverage entrepreneurship and make it a thing, or create a business, or create some type of sustainable income outside of the job market, which has created this world of independent contractors, right? Uh, Now, I just think, with the world of independent contractors that are being had, it's hard to say, when to leave your job. Because I know we kind of spoke about, make your income three times more than your income on a regular basis. But when we talk about that income level there, it's just, I want to ask you, with the 1099 contractors and also working a job, where do you see that going? Just in your experience, because when you a year ago isn't where the world is today.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I really saw it going towards a more of a 1099 situation anyway, because what I alluded to of kind of my reasoning and kind of eye opening moment, part of that was seeing the company come in and hire contractors to do large scale projects. So basically saying, hey, I know the skill set that it takes to actually do this role. We don't even want to hire and manage that. We'll rather hire somebody outside so that we don't have to deal with all the components of managing that there. So, that's why I saw that as an opportunity. And obviously, we're into business consulting and helping individuals that way. That's really a wave of the future and where things are going, where as you continue to put regulations on employers, they're just going to stop employing people.
Mm.
Like, because they don't necessarily have to. I mean, you go to the gym, you're there, or you go to the airport and you see what this company cleaning and doing the trash. No, they don't work for the airport. Oh, they don't work for the gym. They're independent contractors, right? Why did they contract out? Why are so many companies hiring consultants to do this, to do that, and working on special projects when they frankly have employees who are overworked and underpaid already that would love to take on that project and be even more overworked if it's going to get them some additional pay, but they don't allow for those opportunities for, whatever reasons, which is beyond our conversation today and may be beyond, my pay grade here, to be able to speak on that. But yeah, I think that's the wave of the future, right? Because not only contracting out humans, but now we're going to be contracting out robots for these companies. And we're replacing humans. And we're already seeing that in terms of you're going to the grocery store. How many cashiers do you see? You're going in and even people needing to stock and do a lot of different roles. A lot of these things are becoming as automated as possible. They just haven't brought in the actual physical robots yet. But we said Tesla got a robot. They said what, 25, 35,000, and that's just one time fee. So how much do you want to make a year, right? You want to make more than 35,000 a year, and you only could work 8 hours a day, and you want vacation, and you want to call out when your daughter or you get sick and all these different things. The robot ain't calling out. He working around the clock. So when we're talking about improving efficiencies and things, that is the wave of the future.
Most definitely. Most definitely. That's awesome. And just to add upon that, though it's the wave of future, people matter, and a lot of these companies need to also understand that because at the end of the day, the people who are purchasing the product or utilizing the service that you are providing. So there must be an area for people too.
Yeah, definitely must be an area for people. But unfortunately, we are in a capitalistic society. So there's going to be an area for elite people, right? And so when we go back to talking about that decision, whether you should just join a workforce or whether you should go to college or whether you should go to the military or whether you should learn a trade, and why I say you need to do one of those three things is because that's where you're going to be able to build your social network for real. Not on Facebook, not on Instagram, not on TikTok. You're going to be able to build that within those communities, right? Because as you know, military community is a family. You met individuals there that you've created lifetime relationships with. College and university is similar to that. Same thing with going and learning a trade. Those tradesmen, that's their own thing, right? And they have their own ecosystem where they share resources and everything of that nature. So as a young person, you want to try to get into those ecosystems. And if you're young enough, you may be able to take advantage of all three, right? Because you can go into the military, do your 4 to 6 years of service, or even do more than that, and then go to college or university, and then go learn a trade using a boat rehab program. So you literally, utilize all three of those different things. And when we're talking about entrepreneurship and the push to entrepreneurship, what's really going to set you apart? If you are a part of any of those elite groups there, you're able to actually build the social capital to learn and build that network of individuals where you could have employees to work in your business. Your buddies in the military, your buddies in college, your buddies within that trade, starting a business with them. Now you're building an ecosystem of like-minded individuals to be able to do that with. And from a standpoint of looking at people that want to help you, nobody is going to want to help you until you help yourself, right? And as a young person, you put yourself in the best situation when you are a college student and say, hey, I want to go learn from Mark Cuban or, whoever, right? And if you're not in college or you're not doing something, Mark Cuban going to look at you and be like, what? You get off, you just sitting on the couch and you want me to help you, right? But now, oh yeah, I'm a sophomore at Michigan State and, or, hopefully make up a school in Dallas. Oh yeah, I know that, or know wherever he went to school at or something. And he going to be like, okay, for sure. What's your GPA? What you doing? Okay, bet. You know what? Talk to my assistant and we're going to plug you in something, right? You're going to be more likely to get help as a young person, but you're going to be even more likely to get that support and mentorship if you're a young person that's already a part of an ecosystem and doing something for yourself. So that's going to be very, very valuable for individuals to instill that in their children, and if you're a young person listening, instill this into yourself.
Yeah, true indeed. True indeed. I think just with that as well, asking for those opportunities or those opportunities don't just come along. You have to be gracious enough to want to serve those opportunities as well, right? It's still the grind, right? Definitely even in entrepreneurship, that's still the grind. That ecosystem that you speak of, those are the people you're going to reach out to first, right? It's going to be friends and family. Then it's going to be beyond that. It's going to be your social sphere. And then from your social sphere, that's when, again, you're going to be impacted by strangers if you're doing good out here in the world, right? So having that ecosystem that you build, make sure you take care of that ecosystem, because sometimes that ecosystem may not take care of you during your journey, but that doesn't mean you lower your standard for the ecosystem. I mean, lower your standard for that person within the ecosystem. So make sure that you're really going to bat for people, and make sure, obviously, be humble enough to work the job that isn't paying you, but you know it's garnering you the experience to get you to where you're going to go, right? Or be able to take an internship. You know, I do not see a lot of people willing to take an internship, and that's a big thing. Big internships, they talk about that social ecosystem that you say. That's where you can enlarge it and continue to grow, continue to grow. Be involved in college, be involved in your job so you can be able to grow that community of yours.
Absolutely, yeah. And that's for young people and for a lot of our, adults 35 and up too, right? Because, I know people that are literally, laid off right now who still wouldn't want to take an internship. You know, they're not doing nothing right now, but if you offered them an internship that was low paying or no paying, doing exactly what they love to do, they'd be like, oh, no, I'm not getting off the couch for that. And it's just like, well, you mean to tell me I'm going to pay you something to be able to learn everything that you need to know to be able to further your goals and your vision, and you don't want to do that? You are that arrogant to think you could only be paid to do certain positions? It's a different perspective. It's a different perspective for sure. And now, and we think about scaling a business, right? And, we're thinking about this journey I've embarked on more recently, Kenneth embarked on a few years ago. The main thing that I want to kind of close out and let everyone know is that the world isn't going to stop while you're scaling a business. Understand and know that, right? The world is not going to stop while you're scaling a business. Everything is not going to go your way. It's just not. People will die. Family members are going to have funerals. Your kid is going to get sick. You're going to have financial issues because your business is not generating enough money at a particular time. You may have, issues, whether it be with a spouse or whether it be with other loved ones, trials and tribulations that way, right? So, et cetera, et cetera. Like, life is going to go on. And as a business owner versus being an employee, you could just go and call FMLA and be like, hey, you know what? I don't want to come to work for the next 4 to 6 weeks. I'm dealing with mental health, right? And, mental health is nothing to joke about, right? But unfortunately, and more importantly, and why I'm echoing this sentiment and this point, is that you have to understand that when you're a business owner, that, hey, you may be dealing with mental health ailments and different things, and you can't just walk away from that business and be like, hey, I just need to take some time for me. It could even be a day. It might be a particular day that you're just not feeling it and say, hey, I just need this one day. It's like, nope, everything gonna go wrong that day and you can't even take that time out. So these are the things that you have to consider when you're embarking on that journey.
Yeah, that journey, it's a journey, right? And regardless on how you take the journey, my advice to you personally would remain focused. Remain focused. A lot of things are going to happen, and at the time you think it's going to be the end of the world, but it's not. Right? Take the time out to take a step back to stay grounded, and how you stay grounded is being the person who you are, and being the person who you are and always will be. Right? Because again, a lot of times you try to adopt other components because you may see it working for this, or you may see it working for that. But the only thing that's going to be able to push you through those tough times is remaining focused and remaining dedicated, because you understood what you took this journey for and who you took it for. And that's why you tap into the why. Your why is going to continuously unpack the reasons for getting that inner strength, focus, soundness, and also getting you over the hump. Because at the end of the day, there's different levels and different breakpoints that you're always going to be able to take on and also deal with. You may not have, in the entrepreneurship journey, you may not have that original desire, right? All the time. But if you have that foundation and focus and also understanding who you are and what you are doing it for, because that why matters, nothing else matters. Everything else is temporary, and what's going to happen is going to happen. But you being the person in charge, make sure you stay focused, make sure you stay grounded, and make sure you stay educated. Continue to educate yourself. Most entrepreneurs, what they do, they limit themselves to a piece of education that they thought can take them to the next level, and it will not. It will not. You're a forever learner, and you need to be that to be able to grow your business. But most will stay stagnant, right? But we're in a forever changing world. This world is moving so fast. In our historic, our history, we've never seen change like this as fast as it's ever been. So you have to keep up, and it's going to test you. It's going to test you every day. But as long as you navigate it, stay focused, you'll be fine.
Absolutely. And, and thinking about that test, right? And, something that we kind of debate about all the time off camera is, things being hard, right? And, a quote that I have here, whether I made it up or ChatGPT made it up, is here, right? So, one of the things that I want to say is, it's not any one thing that's hard, but it's the weight of everything at once, right? And, that's something that you really have to kind of look at, right? So, because most of us, we're not trying to join special forces, or we're not trying to climb Mount Everest, or we're not trying to join the NBA or do certain things like that. And so when you think about it, most things that we want to accomplish, there's actionable steps to reach those goals. But we have to be willing to build the habits to be able to be successful within that component. Even if we think about it socially, and we think about it within a marriage, for example, it's like, oh man, marriage and kids and all of that stuff is hard. It's like, is it hard, or is it hard because you have 50 other things going on as well, right? But when you really look at and kind of see, well, what's going on, it's really the effort that you want to put into your marriage, and you not wanting to put into that effort, you not wanting to put in that effort into your marriage is the hard concept, right? You're not wanting to build those habits and stack those habits for that marriage or for that relationship to be successful. That's what's hard. That's your relationship, and dealing with the person isn't hard. This person, their likes, dislikes, this and that, but it's like, I don't feel like doing what I know this person would like me to do, right? And that's, one example there. But then when we think about it in terms of what needs to be successful in business, or what needs to be successful in fitness and all of these different things, it's like, well, if you go to the gym, burn 1,000 calories, and, you eat less than 2,000 calories and count your macros, you could probably reach that fitness goal, right? Or you could probably do this, right? But it's hard with everything combined to be able to stack those habits, to be able to consistently do those things, because it's like, oh, well, yeah, I want to do that, but I'm sitting at a desk all day, and now I got to wake up early and to do this or do this after work. But then I got the family and kids, but then I have this going on, and I'm starting a business. So in managing and scaling a business, and now I got to put 12 to 14 hours on that. So something is going to fall by the wayside, right? So you have to kind of understand those different nuances, and being able to dedicate the time to what you feel like is going to be the most productive and make the most impact on your life, right? So there's going to be stages in your life where committing that 12 to 14 hours a day in your business is going to be the most important thing for you. There's going to be times in your life where you're not going to work a minute past 5 p.m. because you value that personal connection and that time with your family. There's going to be other times in your life where you on the MyFitnessPal app, doing all of that and on your health kick because you got a vacation coming up or something, right? But there's always going to be stages, and understanding that and giving yourself grace that when you are laser focused in on one area, something is going to go by the wayside. but don't allow that to go by the wayside for too long, because then you destroy the progress and where you are within that particular stage in lane of your life.
100%, 100%, right? For me, I receive balance, right? That's what I receive from the conversation, balance. It's unheard of. If you're striving for excellence in everything that you're doing, you're never going to have balance. So again, going into my fitness pal, right? That again, you're striving for excellence. What are the top tier people doing in that application? Strive for excellence. What are the top people doing in having the excellent marriage? Strive for excellence. What are the top people doing in business? Striving for excellence. Well, if you strive for excellence, it's going to be hard for you to miss in certain areas. Even if maybe if some people may not think like, hey, what are you doing here? Because again, it's going to be it's going to be so much noise, but you have to focus to be able to really level the playing field and where you want to be. But at the end of the day, you have to strive for excellence continuously as a business owner and as a entrepreneur on this journey. You have to.
Absolutely, man. So great segment, great podcast. Continue to like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff, man. If you made it this far, then you almost like family, man. So go ahead and, what up, cousin? So what's up, man? I definitely appreciate you for watching. And any questions that you have regarding this segment or anything, definitely reach down in the comments. We have a veteran community. Let's continue to learn, grow, and prepare to compete. We out. Peace.